Spider-Man has become the Green Goblin. The sins of Norman Osborn were placed inside of him, basically turning him into the Green Goblin. He then sought revenge on everyone, from burying Kraven the Hunter to chasing down Mary Jane for leaving him for Paul. Now Mary Jane is stuck in the tunnel trying to flee New York, and Spider-Man has arrived to show her just where he thinks she belongs. This is Comicstorian. I take current comic books, turn them into audio dramas so that you know what's going on in the world of comics and what you should be adding to your collection. If you enjoy this content, consider going to our Spotify or our sister channel at Comicstorian Full Story. Back with Norman Osborn, he keeps working, rebuilding the spear that Kraven used to hold his sins. The blade will consume the sins from Peter's body. The shaft will hold them. Norman knows that he needs to do this. He needs to remove his sins that were accidentally placed inside of Peter Parker's body, transforming him into the monster. Norman keeps working with Kraven watching over his shoulder, but back at the Holland Tunnel, Spider-Man, dressed in his black costume, regards Queen Goblin, who just showed up interrupting his revenge on Mary Jane. And she looks at him sadly. "You're infected with the sins of Norman Osborn. I can't leave you with this burden," she says softly, placing a hand on him. But Peter isn't buying it. He whirls around quickly, grabbing a hold of the guardrail and ripping it free. He swings it hard into her body, knocking her away. With that done, he turns back to Mary Jane and Paul, who are watching nearby. "Paul, a word?" Peter yells out to him, and MJ looks to Paul, ordering him to run. With that, she turns, activating the jackpot wrist weapon that was created for her. "You won't hurt me, isn't that right, Peter?" she says, but Peter suddenly stops short, surprised by the weapon. "He gave it to you, the weasel who took you from me." She shakes her head, explaining that no one took her away, and Peter nods. "That's right! You betrayed me! Did you think you wouldn't pay for that?" he yells as he charges at her, consumed by his anger. But before he could attack, the Queen Goblin hits him from behind with her mace, slamming into him again and again. "Enough crying, boy. You've come to the end of my kindness. You won't rob me of my revenge," she says as she smashes him into the ground. She picks him up by the throat, his costume now torn. "I gave everything to prepare Osborn for his sins. If you won't return them, I will tear them from your throat." But MJ uses her jackpot weapon to create playing cards that wrap around Goblin Queen's throat, pulling her away from Peter. "No one is killing Peter Parker today," she shouts out. But now freed, Peter merely charges at Paul, promising that he will hurt the two as much as they hurt him. He grabs Paul, pulling him up to the scaffolding, holding him high in the air. "You should have never come to this world, Paul. You don't belong here," Peter snarls. But Paul looks up at Spider-Man, fear in his eyes. But he is also filled with determination. "I'm not going anywhere. You do what you gotta do," he stammers, panicked, unsure what's gonna happen. Spider-Man thinks for a moment and nods. "Works for me," he says as he releases the man, allowing Paul to plummet towards the pavement below. But there's a movement behind Peter, and he turns to see Kraven the Hunter, armed with the Sin Spear, standing there. "Spider, this is unworthy of you," he shouts. Spider-Man narrows his eyes at the villain. "Do tell!" Below, MJ is there using her weapon to catch Paul before he hits the ground. She crouches by her boyfriend as Norman comes up behind them. "I'm sorry that I dragged you two into this. I'll take it from here. Peter will be okay," Norman says as he walks by them. Above them, Kraven hefts the spear, promising Spider-Man that he is going to end this. But Peter removes his mask, revealing red eyes as he smiles. "I beat you easily, Kraven. I threw you into a grave for fun. I'm gonna hurt you so badly." Kraven nods, leaping at his enemy. "Come then!" he shouts, and the two are locked in a battle. They begin to plummet and fall from the scaffolding as they exchange blows back and forth until they slam into the cars down below. But Kraven is weak. He's fighting without serums. He has no potions. He has nothing. He is simply a man who enjoys the hunt. So Peter grabs him, kneeing him in the stomach. Did you see what happens when you fight fair? You've always been a cheater, Peter shouts. He looks down and he sees the bloodied up Kraven smiling. What are you smiling about? Peter snarls as he leans in close. Kraven suddenly reaches out, grabbing him in a bear hug. He tells Peter that because of him, Kraven has beaten the demons of his family. He now knows that he won't take his own life like his father and mother did. However I die, it will not be by my own hand. I owe you this, Kraven shouts, holding the hero high, and Norman Osborn leaps in, now armed with the Sin Spear. He jabs it into Peter's back, stabbing him with the weapon that will suck all the evil out of him. The hero bellows in pain as those sins are sucked out of his body, trapped once again within the spear. The Green Goblin is glowing in Norman Osborn's hand, trapped within the spear, and he immediately drops it. Peter collapses to the ground, and MJ rushes to his side. He looks up at her, his eyes now normal. Realization of what he's done going through his mind, and his eyes tell us that story. MJ, you didn't do anything wrong, he gasps, and she nods her head. I know, Tiger. Peter and MJ continue to talk. Norman looks to Kraven. I must go before he collects himself, the hunter tells Norman, promising that he will bind the spear with a spell, and he will bury it deep beneath the earth. Neither it nor I will bother you again. You are free, Osborn, Kraven promises. Norman nods, walking away, but he still sees the Goblin Queen in the distance. Even though he did not become the Green Goblin again, he knows that he created her. She's watching, she's smiling. Days pass. Peter is now on the mend, with Norman promising that the city doesn't see Spider-Man as the cause of the problem, since he was dressed in a costume that is now associated with Venom. So, as far as New York is concerned, Peter is still a hero. Peter thanks Norman for his help hanging up the phone, but he knows that he needs to get out there, he needs to protect his city, and he pulls on his old costume. Meanwhile, back at his office, Norman Osborn stares down at his desk, and in its reflection, he can see Green Goblin watching him. He had to save Peter, even knowing that his sins would have to come home. Maybe he isn't so free of the Green Goblin as Kraven would like to let him think. But he can let the world think that the spear has been buried and the Green Goblin is gone. Because a small giggle escapes from Norman's mouth as he slaps his hand over it in shock. Honestly, I was a huge fan of this little mini arc. It's kind of showing what Zeb Wells can do with the Amazing Spider-Man run, and the fact that we didn't drag it out too long is also very good. Now it's time for a more fun adventure as Rip Rack has returned to the Amazing Spider-Man story in the next 2 issues, and we'll be bringing it to you next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.